uploading these to YouTube. I don't know why. It's taking forever. I've done the videos and I'm trying to upload and it just says waiting. I'm like, what are we waiting on? So 5a says 7 equals 3 times x minus 2 squared plus 4. Now, in all honesty, I'm going to tell you, I talked with Miss Bieschke about this. I was like, it says not to do it by factoring or the quadratic formula. What are we trying to do? And they're like, whatever method they can come up with or do. And I was like, okay. So there are a couple of different ways you can look at doing this. One is by taking the square root, okay, which we haven't even talked about. And that's what she told me at first. I don't know if we went over that, but taking the square root, I was like, okay. And I'm announcing all this and recording all this, so great, wonderful, right? So what you would do if you want to take the square root is you are trying to get that quantity x minus 2 quantity squared on one side, and you're trying to get everything else to the other side, okay? So I want to move that plus 4 to the other side. What would I do mathematically to do that? Subtract 4. So whatever you do on one side, you have to do on the other side. 4's cancel out, and you get 3 equals 3 times x minus 2 quantity squared. All right, I'm trying to get that x minus 2 quantity squared by itself. So what would I do next? No. I want to get x minus 2 quantity squared by itself. Not subtract. What's happening between? No. Divide, because the 3 is being multiplied by that x minus 2 quantity squared, right? So if I divide by 3 here, I'm going to divide by 3 over here. The 3 over 3 simplifies. I get x minus 2 quantity squared equals, and 3 divided by 3 is 1. All right, now I can take the square root of both sides. So take the square root of this side, take the square root of this, and I've never seen this done, but if you take the square root of a square, those negate each other. So I saw that somewhere. I was like, oh, that's a cool way to do it. So you're just left with x minus 2 equals, now what is the square root of 1? What times what gives you 1? Positive 1 and negative 1. So when you are taking the square root like this, you need to remember that you need both a positive and a negative value. Okay, Anaya, you with me? All right. So then I set and say x minus 2 equals positive 1 and x minus 2 equals negative 1. We're solving for x. So add 2, 2's cancel out. X is equal to 3 and add 2, x is equal to 1, right? Yeah. Now, the only other way, before she was like, oh, take the square root. Oh, yeah. The only other thing I thought of is that you can also do a table. And, just put some values in. So if x was 0, 0 minus 2 is negative 2. Squared is 4. 4 times 3 is 12. 12 plus 4 would be 16 on this side. And that does not equal 7. So I was just trying different values. And you can get pretty close. If you would have tried 1 and 3, that would have worked out. And you would have gotten one side equals the other side. Does that make sense, kind of? Okay. And it's kind of weird because there is no y value in here. You're just saying, are you getting like 7 equals 16. Well, if that's the case, then x can't be 0. But if you get something like 3 equals 3, then yeah, that x works. Okay? So let's take a look at the second one. And we're going to do the square root method here. Again, whoops. And that is for letter B. Whoops, I wanted red. B says 5 equals 1/2 times quantity x plus 2 quantity squared minus 3. So again, let's try to get this x plus 2 quantity squared by itself. So what would you do first? Add 3 to both sides. 3 cancels out here. Over here, I get 8 equals 1/2 x plus 2 quantity squared. Okay, what would you do next? We do have a fraction. You can think of it as 0.5 if you want to, yes. So it is being multiplied by that, so you could divide by 0.5, or you could multiply by its reciprocal, 2/1. Either way, you're going to end up getting, those cancel out, x plus 2 quantity squared equals, what are you going to get on the other side? I multiplied mine by 2/1. So if you multiply by 2/1, which is the reciprocal, you're going to get 16. If you take 8 divided by half, you're saying how many halves of a candy bar are in 8 full candy bars? There would be 16 halves. People get that mixed up a lot. When you take 8 divided by half, you're not dividing it by 2. You're saying how many halves are in the full. So take the square root. Take the square root. So we get x plus 2 is equal to, what's the square root of 16? And you need to come up with the -4, plus or minus 4. So x plus 2 equals 4, and x plus 2 equals -4. Subtract 2, subtract 2, x equals 2. Subtract 2, subtract 2, x equals -6. Oh, gosh. Snap, crackle, pop. Again, you can use the table also. Okay. If I substitute 0 in there, I get 2 squared 4, half of 2. 2 squared is 4. Half of 4 is 2. 2 minus 3 is -1. 5 does not equal -1. But again, you just try different values and you'll get it to work. 2 plus 2 is 4 squared, 16. 8 minus 3, you get 5 equals 5. That way you know x is 2. So 2 ways to do it, okay? Good question. What other questions do you have? Wait, is that the only ones for that? Or does that go with, okay. Do you want me, if we were to graph, is that part of 5? It's not even clear to me. Do you want me to answer that too? Okay. So this one, I talked with her too. And so if we were to graph this, y equals 3 times x minus 2 quantity squared plus 4, and y equals 7, what would we see? For the first one, what would we see? What does y equals 7 look like?
It wouldn't be on the x-axis. It'd be like
Right. Y equals 7. What kind of line is that going to be? All y's are 7. Horizontal line. So basically, I did this, it's really weird. I said we would see a horizontal line at y equals 7, crossing the parabola, or intersecting, you could say, intersecting the parabola at 2 points. That's all I have. It's not a big thing. Say it again.
Is the parabola positive?
It is because, let's see, did we ever get this over to 0? Add 1. Yeah, if you look here, it was 3 there before. Here it's positive, so it's showing it's positive, the A value in front. Yeah. And very similarly for the other one,
I have a quick question.
if we were to graph 1/2, that's a positive A value. We see a horizontal line at y equals 5 crossing the parabola at 2 points again. Same, similar thing. Yes, Taylor.
So, are we only to use, what's it called, find the square? Is that the one we just did? Like the.
That is not what this is, no.
The number 5. What's it called?
This is called essentially taking the square root of both sides. Square root.
So, are we only supposed to use that one where it says do not factor, do not use quadratic formula? Can we use that for like the other ones as well?
If it doesn't tell you, you should be able to use it, yes. Good question. All right. And so do you understand that second question, we would see a horizontal line at y equals 5 crossing the parabola at 2 points. Something similar to that. All right, what other questions do we have? 6A. Okay, let's see if my 6A. Solve the following equations with whatever method. So it's not that one. So mine looks like it's, gosh, it's not even the same. What did she do? Okay, let me look. I think she figured out there was some problem she didn't like and she changed it, and I don't have the old one. This is similar. Okay. So 6A, I guess it's kind of like this, but this has a -9 in front on ours, right? Okay. Oh, great. I didn't finish this one. Lovely. All right. So here we don't have, two of the same factors that are squared. So square root method is not necessarily going to work. So I want to probably try to get it equal to 0. So what would be my first step? Yes, let's add 9 to both sides. 9's cancel out. We get 0 equals -1/2 times quantity x plus 3 times x minus 1 plus 9. I know where this is going. This is why I didn't finish this one. So, what would I do next? Any ideas?
Distribute the negative one.
Yes, you need to do double distributive property in here. Just leave the -1/2 out front first, or to begin with. So we'll get to the -1/2 later. But in here we have x times x is x squared plus 3 times x, and why I did that wrong. X times x times -1, then the 3x underneath, and 3 times -1 is -3. plus 9 at the very end. We're not distributing the negative 1/2 plus the 9. We just moved that from one side to the other. So, simplifying a little bit, negative 1/2 times x squared, 3 minus 1 is 2x, minus 3, plus 9. All right, we have in here a fraction. I didn't like dealing with the fraction. Maybe you do, probably not. So what I did, I said, let's multiply everything times 2 on both sides, because I want to get rid of that fraction. So 2 times 0 is 0 over here. 2 times negative 1/2 is going to, 2 times negative 1/2 times x squared is going to give me negative x squared. 2 times negative 1/2 times 2x is going to give me negative 2x. No, wait. 2 times negative. Yes, that should be a negative. And 2 times negative 1/2 times negative 3 should give me plus 3. And then 2 times 9 should give me 18. Negative x squared, negative 2x, plus 3, plus 18. I think that's right. Positive, yeah, that should have been negative. Okay, so then simplifying here, 0 equals negative x squared minus 2x plus 21. We don't like to have a negative usually here. I know this is a lot more than we have space for. So I factored out a negative 1 and got x squared plus 2x minus 2. Oh, no, that's 21. Jeez. 21. So, what would we do here next? This is the problem that never ends. This is why she changed the problem, I can tell. What would you do next? What are we trying to do? Solve it, right? This is a quadratic. So we might try what? Xbox? Try to factor it, right? So A is 1, B is 2, C is negative 21. If we do Xbox, we get negative 21 here. Are there any factors of negative 21 that add to give us 2? Are there? Are there any factors of negative 21 that add to give us 2? No. So that means Xbox not going to work. What is our last resort then? Quadratic formula. Yes. So we would say, oh, I just erased my A, B, and C. A was 1, B is 2, C is negative 21. This is a yucky one. So we would say opposite of B, which is negative 2, plus or minus square root. B is 2 squared minus 4 times A, which is 1, times C, which is negative 21, all divided by 2 times A, which is 1. So negative 2 plus or minus 2 squared is 4, minus, and 4 times 1 times negative 21 is negative 84. And subtracting a negative would be adding the opposite, make it plus. all divided by 2. So opposite of 2 plus minus the square root of 88 divided by 2. You could simplify that a little and say that is -1 plus or minus the square root of 88 over 2. That's x equals. So that one is really, really long and involved. No. I can do B and C, and those are much shorter. I will tell you C is just like what we just did up at number 5. That you get your +3 over to the other side. You divide by -3. You're going to get x minus 4. That quantity squared equals 1. Take the square root of both sides, and that'll work. And B, you can do using factoring. Xbox will work for B. I can go through B if you want. Which one? 10? Number 10. Number 10. Use a quadratic. Let's see. Is this the same one? Well, she changed the numbers, it looks like. Let me see if I have another one. Y equals 3x squared. This one is, okay. X squared. Okay, here we go. So it's my number 8. This is number 10 on yours. So first of all, do we have a GCF to try to make it easier? No, we do not. And it says use the quadratic formula. So we have to use the numbers we have here. So A is equal to what? Yes, and make sure you are only putting the coefficients or the number. Do not include the x's. B is -18 and C is 8. Okay, first of all, it's asking for the value of the discriminant. Do you remember what the discriminant is? It is part of the quadratic formula, but not the whole thing. The discriminant is b squared minus 4ac. It's the part underneath the radical. Okay, so b is -18 squared minus 4 times my a value of 3 times c, which is 8. -18 squared is 364. Is that right? Yes. Minus 12 times 8, 96. 12 times 8. 12 times 8. Yes, 96. 364 minus 96 is 268. Check my math. I think that's right, though. So the value of my discriminant is 268. That is a positive number. When you have a positive number, how many roots are you going to have? A positive number in the discriminant. How many roots will you have? 2. This is a good refresher. What if my discriminant is equal to 0? How many roots will we have? 1. Yes, we have 1 root. And if my discriminant is less than 0 and it's negative, you're going to have no roots. No real roots, I should say. That is in your books. There's a page that talks about that. So that's a good reminder refresher.
How is it 164?
164.
131. I mean, not 164. It wasn't 364.
What is 18 times 18?
324.
Is it 324?
That's what I got. That's what I was like.
Yes, 324. Okay. It's 324 then. All right. So 324 minus 96. That's why I said check me on that. 12, 11, 8, 2. Ooh, that's not much better. 228.
Yeah, that's what I
That still does not, I don't think 228 is a perfect square. But it should be 228 there. 228. Okay. Then it says we need to use the quadratic formula again. So we put all of this in. X equals opposite of b. If b is negative 18, it's going to be positive 18 plus or minus the square root b squared, negative 18, quantity squared, minus 4 times a, which is 3, times c, which is 8, all divided by 2 times a, which is 3. X equals, simplifying 18 plus or minus 324. Well, actually, we already found that, right? We found the discriminant to be 228. So I'm going to say 228, square root of 228, all divided by 6. I can simplify that and say 18 divided by 6 is 3 plus or minus the square root of 228 divided by 6. Because if this is under both, you have to go and have this under both parts. So 18 divided by 6 is 3 as a whole, plus or minus 228 over 6. Now, I'm going to put this like this. 228 divided by 6. Yuck! Okay, y-intercept. How do we find the y-intercept? What is true for every point when you're talking about the y-intercept? These are the things you need to think of. Don't say, I need to find the y-intercept right away. Think, what else is happening when I have a y-intercept? Yeah, x is equal to 0. And so when x is equal to 0 and you go back to your original, what happens to the first term? It's gone, right? It zeroes out. What happens to the second term? It zeroes out. So what is your y left to be? 8. Does everybody see that? So remember, when you're looking for the y-intercept, it is your c value in standard form. Axis of symmetry. There's a certain little formula that you have to remember for axis of symmetries. Anybody remember what that is? We just did it the other day. It was on that wonky page where the thought bubbles and the speech bubbles were not pointing in the right place. It is opposite of b divided by 2a. Okay, so b is negative 18. Opposite of b would be positive 18 divided by 2 times my a value of 3 is 18 divided by 6, which is 3. And if that is a 3, that axis of symmetry is the line that cuts that parabola into 2 equal parts. If it is a vertical line, which it will be, we have to say x equals 3 because it's that whole line that's going to split it. Okay? And Where am I going to find my vertex? Huh? Where am I going to find the vertex? Isn't that going to be on your axis of symmetry? It's either the highest point or the lowest point, right? So that's going to be, your vertex is always right in the middle. So this is not only your axis of symmetry, it also becomes your x coordinate. Okay? So finding that to be 3 means your vertex here is 3. And how can I find the y value? If I know x is 3, what could I do? Where did I get A? Where did I get 8? Oh, would it be 8? How did you get that? Well, the y-intercept is 8 only when x is equal to 0. So if x is equal to 3, it's probably not going to be 8. But if x is equal to 3, you need to substitute that value. I just erased it. Substitute that value back up here for x to solve for y. So 3 squared is 9. 9 times 3 is 27. Minus 18 times 3 is 54. Plus 8. 27 minus 54 is what? Negative 27. Plus 8 is going to be negative 19. So this is negative 19. Questions on that?
I have a question about another problem.
Okay. So what you have to think of, there are multiple ways you have to kind of go about thinking about these problems, which I think tends to make it tricky at times, okay? So it's like, okay, what do I know? I'm looking for the y-intercept. Okay, but I don't need to just find the y-intercept. At the y-intercept, what happens? X is equal to 0. Okay, if x equals 0, that zeroes out the x values here first. That's why C is my y-intercept, okay? And if that's your y-intercept, well, going to axis of symmetry, you have to know this formula. I don't think we're going to give that to you. I don't know. If you look at it, it's the beginning part of the quadratic formula up here. See that? Opposite of B divided by 2A. That gives you the axis of symmetry, and make sure you say x equals because it's a line, and that also gives you the x coordinate of your vertex because it's on that axis of symmetry. Then you substitute in to find your y coordinate. Okay, which one did you have a question on?
11, it's cut off. Is that like?
It is important, unfortunately. I think, is there one that's similar to that? You're right. It's not really. But it is important. So we're going to do 11. What you might have to do is kind of do a basic graph, maybe. And I was not sure what she was doing, but I think I know what she wants.
So it's the equation's the one that's on the back, right?
Right. I think what A should read is y is equal to x squared. That's one equation. And the other one should be, I believe, 3y equals 2x plus 6. Does that make sense? I believe that's kind of what she's wanting. Now, these were the problems that we worked on kind of just yesterday. I'm trying to find some place.
Also, they're similar to
Yes, where you will graph a linear equation and then you will graph the parabola. And this says, okay. Ah, here it is. I see it now. You guys don't have this number 9, do you? Actually, it should be y equals x squared plus 3 and y equals 2x plus 9. That just got jammed together. So one more time. It should be y equals x squared plus 3 and y equals 2x plus 6. All right. And I know you don't have a good graph of that. So I would suggest you can do a basic graph maybe on that last page. But here's what it's going to look at like. I would do the linear one first, right? This is y equals mx plus b. So what can I determine right away? What is b? I know our time's running short too. 6, that's my y-intercept. Okay, so this is my y-intercept. So 6 is my y-intercept. And what else do I know? Slope is what? 2 over 1. That means up 2 and right 1. Up 2, right 1. Up 2, right 1. And you would draw a line, something like that. Let's try it again. Still not great. All right, y equals x squared plus 3. What can we tell from this? It's a parabola, right? What's my c value? Or if x is equal to 0, what do I get? Y is 3. So right there, that is my y-intercept, okay? If x equals 0, y is 3. You could put values in, like do a table. That might be the easiest way to graph this. So we just said if x is 0, that's 3. What if I put 1 in? Try to go 1 space to the right, 2 spaces to the right, 1 to the left, 2 to the left. If I put 1 in, I get 1 squared, which is 1. 1 plus 3 is 4. So that's 1, 4. If I put 2 in, 2 squared is 4. 4 plus 3 is 7. That is 2, 7. That means the other side is going to be the same. Okay? So here it is as a graph. And it says to solve both algebraically and by graphing. Let me get rid of this so I have some room. So if this is y and it's 2x plus 6, put 2x plus 6 here in place of y. Set it equal to x squared plus 3, and you would try to solve. But we can finish this tomorrow, okay? Keep working on this review. What?
You know what page number that was that we did it on?
It was just yesterday, so
The
114.
But didn't we like graph it too? There's a graph on that page?
Yeah,
It is?
yeah. Were you here yesterday? That's where we took the graph and we like pasted it on the,
Oh, you probably did page 3, right?
okay?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.